Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Christian Carlson, and I'm here to deliver what is our third installment of our State and Local Government Connect webinar series. So thank you for joining. Before I get started, I'm going to ask real quick. I'm here with my colleague and good friend, Shelby Hines. We both work out of Esri's Colorado regional office. And I'm just going to check with Shelby. Shelby, can you see my slides?
I sure can.
All right, fantastic. Well, welcome to the webinar, everyone, and I want to wish everyone a happy GIS Day. I regret that it's a virtual event for most, if not all of you, but I do know there are plenty of activities that are happening around the world today for GIS Day, and I'm just grateful that we have technology that enables us to be able to connect and carry out that annual event, even in light of the current situation that we all have. So happy GIS Day, and I hope that this webinar can be a contributing part of your experiences today. So we're excited about it. I do also want to mention that we're recording this session, and all attendees will get an email after the fact, and it'll have a link to the recording so that you can watch it again, or you can share it with others in your organization that you feel would be interested in the content. So be on the lookout for that email. Like I said, I'm here with a colleague and good friend, Shelby Hines, and we're going to walk through today's content. The title for our webinar today is the 6 elements required for effective civic engagement. We at the end of last year, beginning of this year, around January, we went through a process to identify a series of topics that we wanted to cover in these monthly webinar events. And clearly, civic engagement was one of those from the get-go that was an important topic that we wanted to cover. Little did I know at that time that how important it would become. So it's more relevant now than ever, given our virtual circumstance, our working in a distributed environment, the increased need for digital services for all organizations, government included, and the importance of being able to communicate information with our constituents, both in private sector organizations and in this case and around the government ecosystem. So it's a really relevant topic, and I'm glad you've taken a few minutes to carve out some time to be with us today. Just another quick comment before I kind of get into the meat of the presentations is that, you know, I was sort of driven to create this content, you know, first and foremost, because we have, as GIS professionals and practitioners, and yourselves have implemented GIS and the use of location as a form of civic engagement for decades. It's been a primary and priority application area for the technology, and it's been extremely effective. It's implemented in governments to support broad enterprise-wide communication, but also at the department level. So it's been an ongoing sort of capability. The point I'm trying to make here is that over the past 6 months, there's been heightened understanding of opportunities for us to improve, and what's been driving this thinking or creating this opportunity for us to actually go in and think about how we do civic engagement in ways that we can actually improve that experience. Well, one, you know, we have talked for years about the promise and the realities of the benefits of the information age that we live in today. So there are so many things that are just extraordinary. Access to information, access to data, ways that we can communicate with each other that exist today that were almost unthinkable even 20 years ago. Within that environment, there are challenges. I mean, and you're experiencing them, and you've experienced them in mass and over the past 6 months. There's so much information coming from multiple sources at a super high rate, so the cadence of information delivery is incredibly high, that it just brings with it a set of challenges. Sometimes the information is conflicting. Sometimes the information is not necessarily complete. We don't get complete information. We tend to communicate in epitaphic ways, so very truncated bits of information that deliver some sort of epitaphic communication that can be interpreted in many different ways. But we've all experienced this, and so we're experiencing it at scale at this moment. So what's been amazing over the past 6 months is been how quickly organizations have transitioned into being able to support this scaled virtual environment and this scale, like the added digital services that are available to people, and done so at scale very quickly. But I think there's opportunity to actually evolve the way that information is communicated and take advantage of best practices that actually can help us achieve our ultimate objectives with civic engagement, public communication, that I think could be real beneficial to all of us. And you as GIS practitioners are central to that activity and that process. So yes, I work for Esri. Yes, I'm a GIS professional. Those two things are true, but I'm also a citizen and I live in a community, and I engage with my government as needed, just like you do. So I bring that up and I sort of position what we're going to talk about, because my experience and what I expect from civic engagement is common to what everyone expects, and I want to take it from that personal experience and the information I've collected from others around this topic as a way to sort of frame these 6 best practices that we're going to talk about. So let's just do that. So let's take a second to sort of explore, unpack this idea of like, what am I expecting from civic engagement? Like, what's the best sort of scenario that I could experience when I use civic engagement opportunities that my government and my community or state provide me? Well, number one, because I don't go to my government website every single day, and neither does anyone. But when I do go, I'm usually taken to that destination because I want a service. So I want to be able to get to an online digital service and either renew my car registration, or understand when my garbage is going to be picked up, or know where to vote. So it's a service. That's one thing. The other reason why I go is because I want to get information. And that term, the term information, we should also unpack a little bit, because what I'm really looking for is understanding and knowledge about something that I'm interested in. So it's not just binary information that I'm looking for. I'm actually looking to actually understand what the comprehensive plan for my community may be, or understand what Vision Zero is and why it's important, and what my community is actually trying to, the steps that they're taking to actually address pedestrian safety. So it's understanding, not just information. Sometimes I'm looking for direction. So like, what I mean by direction is like, tell me what I need to do, or tell me how I need to, think and relate to a certain priority that my community may have. I'm also looking to be able to provide feedback to my government. So that could be simple. It could be just sending a note about something that I'm interested in and asking a question. It could be reporting a pothole. It could be participating in a community activity or initiative like wildlife observations. But regardless of what the subject matter may be, I want to be able to participate. And then wrapped in that, I want to know that I'm heard, so that my efforts are actually part of a process, and that I get some sort of response back from the government. If I'm going to take the time to communicate, I want to get something back from them. And so this sort of, what I'm laying out here is this ecosystem of engagement that really all has to come together for it to be an effective experience for the citizen or for the constituent. And when we achieve these things, or make these capabilities accessible, a couple of really cool things happen. Number one, I feel included. There's a sense of equity in the community because I'm part of it, and it ultimately leads to this civic public trust that we're all part of an ecosystem of activity. We're living in a community, we're part of a community, and we're communicating clearly and thoroughly with each other. And like I said, today, now more than ever, this is a huge capability, and it's a huge need that that I know that governments want to provide and fill that gap, and I know that citizens are looking for. So hopefully that resonates with you a little bit. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk. I wrote a blog back in April. It's on, provide you with the link for the blog, but it just sort of outlines 6, like what I think are go-to or critical elements to civic engagement. We're going to go through those 6. I decided that it would be easiest if we consolidate those elements into some relevant topics. So there's three. The first is being a lighthouse for trusted and useful information. So this is an objective. So a government organization wants to become the lighthouse for trusted and useful information. The second subject area is around providing tools and experiences that help create understanding and knowledge. So it's not just information transfer. It's all about understanding and knowledge. And we'll go into this in detail. And then lastly is the couple of things that we know from experience that are really catalytic in nature in driving public engagement and public participation. And so we'll break these down. So the first step in our journey is going to be exploring a little bit about what it means to be a lighthouse for trusted and useful information. And so there's two elements here that we're going to go over. The first element is the importance of a destination. And so what is a destination? It's a place that you go, that you're drawn to, you're going to a destination. It's really important that the civic engagement solutions that you provide are useful, easy to use, transparent in their purpose, and as a result, people use them, and then they're drawn to come back to it because it is a useful resource. Like it becomes the source of information that they use, and they had a good experience with it. So it's around creating an effective destination. The second component of this, which is embedded in the destination, is this notion that once you go and visit that destination and decide you're going to use it, that the purpose of that destination is clear. So what that means to us is sort of organizing your civic engagement experiences around priorities and initiatives. And they should be able to go to that destination, and what those priorities and initiatives are clear and transparent. The design and the site should actually pull the customer through the purpose and initiative so that they're not having to sort of figure it out on the fly. And I think we have some really interesting tools and experiences that we have developed over the years that really play to this. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to transition over to Shelby. Shelby's going to give you a little tour, and I'll usually chime in here and there when I have the opportunity. And then she'll discuss this idea around lighthouse and trusted and useful information, and then we'll come back and we'll hit the second section. So we're going to transition over to Shelby. So Shelby, if you want to take it away.
Okay, great. Thanks, Christian. In this first segment, I'll show a couple great examples of destinations from state and local governments, and then I'll explain a bit about the capabilities and tools that we see. So here we can see Pope County, Minnesota is transforming how they engage and collaborate with their community using this site. The site is clean and clear, and very usable. This first gallery that we see are resources on how to actually use and navigate the site. Another gallery features maps and apps that they want to share with their community. The site is well organized. They have open data available to the public, organized by theme. We can also see that they have some important topic areas and additional content in these pages along the top. Also, they've got a language translation button. And that easily, they're able to enable language preferences for their users. In this next example, the state of Montana has built a site to support their forest action plan. The site delivers clear objectives. They lay out three main parts to accomplish landscape scale forestry restoration. It's easy to understand their goals. They provide resources and details around their work. Content is well organized. They even lay out priority areas using an interactive app. and they provide the data to support their direction in their planning process. This next site is one that I built to support a fictional hazard mitigation planning process for the mountain community of Yarrow. As part of this process, the city will identify their risks and vulnerabilities to natural hazards, and then derive a mitigation strategy to reduce that risk and to protect the people and property in the city. This site and the previous two that you saw are built using ArcGIS Hub. ArcGIS Hub is a product that enables you to build engaging websites that can serve as a destination. Hub provides a framework for presenting ArcGIS content, as well as any other type of content to support. I'll take you on a quick overview of ArcGIS Hub capabilities using this site's menu. First, the initiative site is where you configure the theme and the look and feel and the content that you use to convey your information. You can use your dashboard to track how many people are engaging with your content over time. You administer teams for managing the site and for sharing content with others. You can feature upcoming events and message attendees before or after the event. You can create and publish surveys within your site to solicit feedback from others. Your community consists of people from outside of your organization that have either followed the site or been invited in. Content library houses the data and content that power your site. And the groups manager enables you to add additional open data groups from other organizations. So let's take a look at our layout options. I can drag and drop any of these cards onto my site to build capabilities without writing a single line of code. So here, let's drag a gallery card into this row. And I have some apps and web resources ready to go in my ArcGIS Online organization that I'll pull through into this site. I'm able to tailor the look and feel of the gallery a bit, give it the button for Explore, and I'm ready to go. I also want to point out that when you first go to build an ArcGIS Hub site, you have the option to use Hub templates. These templates are built around common state and local government initiatives, and they're really beautifully designed. Many of them are bundled with ArcGIS solutions, which are focused maps and apps that help address challenges in your organization. So one example of a Hub template is the Citizen Problem Center. And this enables citizens to report non-emergency issues to their government, and is designed to be fully transparent in resolution of those issues. So here I've showed a couple examples of sites that serve as destinations for governments, and I've provided a quick overview of ArcGIS Hub and some of its capabilities that enable you to build engaging and topic-specific sites. And with that, Christian, I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Shelby. So I guess a couple of things that I would emphasize from that section is that, you know, what Shelby showed was a deliberate attempt by these organizations to be really clear and purposeful about what they're trying to communicate and the capabilities that they're offering through these implementations. And so that's really like the essence of what we're talking about here. Design the civic engagement opportunity to be clear and purposeful and inviting, and drag them through what the capabilities are. At the end, they get utility out of that experience, and it becomes something that they want to return to because they know that it's going to be valuable and they can achieve what they're trying to achieve the next time. The second little section that we're gonna go through and talk about today is about this idea of ensuring that you create understanding and knowledge. So this is like a deliberate attempt, again, to make a distinction between providing volumes of information and actually achieving a communication objective. This is really, really, really important. We're all completely inundated with information. We have less communication and knowledge. It's sort of left to all of us to sort of assemble these inputs and sort of make our own decisions, and that's a really important thing to be able to do. But there's also an opportunity, and many opportunities, for us to be really clear in how we communicate and what we're trying to communicate. So there's again, two things I want to cover here. One is one that's near and dear to our heart and yours, which is the power of location and communication. So it's the favored framework for driving engagement. I know this, and you know it as well. The sort of funny little comment you'd make is, I'll tell you, I've never seen people in mass huddled around a spreadsheet, but I've seen conference room tables with people trying to fight their way through to actually see the map. And why is that? Well, it gives us context. It gives us context in the context of like a sense of place. So when you are looking at natural disaster information, crime, school performance, where the community is investing resources for capital improvements, the first thing that we all do is say, how does that impact? Where's my house? Where do I live, and how does this impact me? What about the people I care about? What about the community as a whole? And so location becomes this organizing framework for really communicating information in a way that we can personalize and understand. It also gives us a much better context of magnitude, scope, scale, pervasiveness. It's just a tremendous communication vehicle, and we've all experienced that. And so using location in these as a framework for these civic engagement opportunities is, I don't know what other word to use besides, it's just catalytic. I mean, we have firsthand knowledge of where location is leveraged for civic engagement, that the participation is higher, and it's pretty amazing. The second component that we're going to cover is around storytelling. You might say narratives, but it's this idea of having a complete dialogue. So this is important for all of us, and it's certainly important for civic engagement. But narratives and stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. They have a what, a why, and a where. It's a complete. We have this conversation with my kids all the time. If you're going to tell me a story, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. That lets me understand in a very complete way what is being communicated. Gives me all the information I need to understand the elements that are sort of leading up to an initiative or priority, what I need to know about it, how it's being addressed, and what the intended outcomes are. So it's this idea of storytelling and narratives. And I think that it's important for organizations to be able to control that narrative. Like, so you have a reason, and we're going to get into this specific example in a moment. You have a reason why Vision Zero is important to your community. So articulate that and articulate it completely. And where storytelling and location are combined, it's an incredibly powerful 1-2 punch in achieving your purpose, with your civic engagement and driving participation. So Shelby, it's probably a little bit too long of an intro. I didn't mean to do that, but I'm going to pass it back over to you for the examples here.
Sounds good. Thanks, Christian. First, I'll show a couple of examples, and then I'll highlight Esri apps and capabilities that are great at storytelling and building location-based apps. So the City and County of Denver is engaged in a Vision Zero initiative, and they tell a story around that initiative using this app. So the goal of Vision Zero is to eliminate traffic deaths and serious injuries. The story engages us in the data that they use to drive decisions around their process. We can see patterns around where incidents are occurring. They describe a focus on vulnerable populations and on hotspots of fatalities and of serious injuries. They go on to describe the how, the who, and the when of these incidents. So they've really engaged us in a story, and we come away from this app with an understanding of the issue. In this next example, we're looking at preservation and enhancement projects along the Highline Canal Trail, which runs through the Denver metro area. And this app enables a nonprofit organization, multiple jurisdictions, and a water utility to collaborate around the projects more effectively. The app is also available to the public. So seeing the data in the context of location really makes it relevant for people, especially people that live close by. You know, everyone that lives in a place cares about that place and about the work that's happening around them. So ArcGIS is a platform that enables you to store, manage, analyze, and visualize your authoritative location-based data. There are app templates and capabilities that come as part of ArcGIS Online that help you engage audiences and your community with your data. So I'll point out a few here that are great for public-facing apps and content. You have ArcGIS dashboards. Experience Builder is what that Highline Canal app is built on. ArcGIS Hub. Solutions Deployment app. Story Maps, and Survey 123. So your organization has the tools to author stories and create understanding with compelling apps, all within the context of location. And so with that, Christian, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Shelby. No, that was great. So a couple of things before we go to the next section that I thought I would chime in on. So we talked about the value of just adding location. I think what's really important for GIS professionals to embrace is that we're not just talking about dots on a map. So you notice that one of the examples that Shelby showed was around hotspots. And that's just one example. But that view, like leveraging hotspot analysis versus just dots, it communicates something. It communicates something different, has a different impact. So being able to embrace data analytics, like the spatial analytics on the back end, that shows some pretty interesting views of the data, and the whole variety of data representation tools is really, really effective and can be extremely powerful in inclusion. So just my point here is, like, don't just consider dots on maps. Think of all the capabilities that you already know and leverage within a GIS as part of your incorporation of location. We have seen tremendous use of our story maps and initiatives within the ArcGIS platform, and they've just been so impactful in achieving what we've been talking about, which is like this broader understanding and knowledge about issues. It's interesting because in my neighborhood, just to give you a personal example, they replaced all of the speed limit signs in the neighborhood. They reduced the speed limit, and then they have I forget what the comment is exactly, but it references Vision Zero. And the number of times I've been asked, you know, what is Vision Zero? And of course, luckily from our work, I can communicate it. But people have that question. And so, like what you saw in that example from the city and county of Denver was a clear, here's what Vision Zero is, here's why it's an important initiative for us to be involved in. Here's the actual data about our community relative to pedestrian safety and injuries. Right, so it walked through that whole thing. So it's a great example. So thank you, Shelby. Going into our last segment here is around how do you actually, and this is a question I get a lot from government organizations is, one of our objectives is to increase the amount of civic engagement and the usage of the tools that we're providing, get more engagement. Everything we've talked about up to this point contributes to that. So I don't want to like discard any of that. What I do want to do is focus on two things that the data suggests are critical aspects of citizen engagement and creating more of that. Those two things are ensuring that the solutions that you provide are first and foremost answering the questions that the citizens are asking. So what are the common things that, what are the common questions that they ask? And oftentimes they're very basic and mundane, right? So it's really around government services. There's a very common set of questions. I know that that's typically the first thing that takes me to my community's website is things like, where can I vote? What school district is this particular house in, or our house in? When does my garbage get picked up? Like very simple questions that typically can go into a 311 center, but they can also be part of very simple sort of, I go to the website, I get the answer to those questions. That's one. The second thing that really drives engagement is are tools that enable citizens to participate with their government. So this means everything from being able to report a code violation or some sort of infrastructure issue, like there's a pothole or there's a heaved, sidewalk is heaved or damaged and dangerous, to be able to actually easily collect that information and provide it back to your government organization as a contribution. Typically, the best case scenario is where there can be enhanced bidirectional communication. So I know that when I've communicated information to the city that I live in, I've been very impressed that they come back right away. I usually get a response, and it's just that sense of closure and that sense of, hey, I took the time to actually report something and participate in my community, and they got that information and they responded back. There's also some really fun opportunities. It's not always about a code violation or infrastructure challenge or crime. It can also be just participating in some worthwhile community efforts. And so we've seen communities implement trails and open space civic engagement opportunities where people can collect information about trail condition or trail infrastructure condition while they're out enjoying that resource. They can also collect wildlife observation information, and this stuff is fun. It serves a purpose for the government, a real valuable one, and then it gives families and communities a way to participate when they're out enjoying those resources. So Shelby, do you want to give us a little tour here on those two topics, common questions and ways that we can provide tools that citizens can use to participate?
You bet. Thanks, Christian. So like Christian said, if you give people a great resource that answers their questions, they'll come back again the next time, and they'll even send their friends too. So here I'll show a couple examples, and then I'll talk more about capabilities that can engage the broader community. In this first example, East Baton Rouge Parish in Louisiana puts out a My Government Services app to answer the questions that people ask related to where they live. So I can drop a point on the map just by clicking on the map and setting my location. And you can see in this pane, it returns my local public facilities, my elected representatives, my school district, and my curbside services that are provided by the parish. So it's engaging the general public with a resource and the information they need to know as residents. In this next example, the City of Washington, D.C. promotes a neighborhood cleanup initiative, and they've laid out a volunteer program for participation. They have easy to follow steps, enabling volunteers to sign up. They highlight their progress and success using statistics and data around the adopted blocks, the cleanup events, and the volunteer work that has gone into the initiative already. So like we've said, people like contributing to their communities, and this site provides a clear structure to enable that. So back to the City of Yarrow site. And I'll point out a couple capabilities available with ArcGIS Hub for engaging the community. The first is the ability to collect information through surveys. So to solicit feedback on something. In this case, the comments, in this case, the public is to comment on the draft plan document that's available here on this tile on the left. So Survey 123 enables smart form capabilities and offers many different question types. You're also able to set visibility rules for questions. So for example, if I would like to be contacted by the planning team, I'm then presented with fields to populate about my contact information. Just creating a streamlined experience for the end user. Okay, another way to collaborate with people outside of your organization is to use the Hub community. So the Hub community provides people accounts to use to interact with the site and collaborate with each other. So if I were a member of the public and I clicked follow, if I click this follow button, I then create an account that enables me to engage with this site. And when we say community, we're talking broadly. Maybe it's other government entities, maybe it's businesses, NGOs, universities, and of course, residents. And the idea is really to amplify the efforts of the staff and to broaden the impact and really the footprint of the work that you're trying to achieve. So another option is that I can remove this follow button from the site and take total control over who's in my community. I can invite them in myself. Once I have that community established, I can do a couple things. I can send notifications to the email addresses that are associated with those community accounts. I can also share content privately with the community or with subgroups of those people. So I can control the flow of information to the people that need to see it. So right now, I'm not logged into this site. I'm accessing it anonymously as a member of the public. If I go to sign into the site, you'll notice that a new page shows up in the header of my site. And this is an example of how you can control the sharing of your content. So on that planning team page, the planning team can collaborate around a project or around data privately. So the ArcGIS capabilities we've seen are designed to help organizations like yours to engage and collaborate with the broader community, to help answer the questions that people ask, and to promote participation and engagement to advance project initiatives and goals. And with that, Christian, I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry, I'm clicking buttons here, so I can't talk and click buttons at the same time. Sorry. Okay, that was great. I can't sort of emphasize enough how like having those tools to participate, how impactful they can be. And I just think that as much as we can, one of the things I didn't mention at the beginning of the webcast is that so many organizations are implementing components of these 6 best practices, but not all of them. And so if you've got 4 and you don't have tools for that supports citizens participating in the civic engagement effort, it's a really impactful thing to add to your portfolios of capabilities. So just like think about ways that you can start to incorporate all 6 elements. And you know what? Next week there could be a 7th and an 8th, but I know that these 6 are pretty impactful. So thank you, Shelby, for doing that. I cannot emphasize, and I've thought about this a lot lately, is what an incredible opportunity GIS professionals have right now to fill like such a valuable gap that exists for citizens today, which is what we're talking about, this whole civic engagement thing, this way to get better information. There is so much opportunity for you to take your tradecraft, like your professional capabilities and experience, and introduce it to your organization in new ways that are just so incredibly impactful. And so I just really encourage you to sort of step in and fill that gap in your organization if you feel like it exists, and to not be bashful about taking the skills that you have and what you know, the very unique capabilities that you have and that you know, in applying them aggressively to your organization, because they are incredibly impactful around the civic engagement area. We're going to send out a follow-up email that, as I mentioned at the beginning, that includes these links. But real quickly, there's a number of resources that you can leverage. So people have been submitting questions, and I've been jotting them down and reviewing them. Many of those questions will be answered as they go through these resource links, but then we're going to answer a couple here in just a second. There are a few of you that I'm going to follow up with individually. I think the questions go beyond the scope of a webinar, so I'm going to follow up with you individually. But civic inclusion, if you're interested in civic inclusion and ways to sort of facilitate, improve civic inclusion, we have resources to support that, along with Quick Start Guide to Hub Premium. There's a very specific blog post around how to storify a planning report. I'm one of those people that have actually gone and looked at a long-range plan in my community, and what I would say is the typical approach is to have a long-range plan created and then just publish that long-range planning report, but I'm not a planner. And so what I would want to see is that planning report turned into something that I can stand and that is engaging and meaningful, and we have some resources to help do that. And I think it's a worthwhile thing to look at. You can also check out our ready-to-use SaaS solutions. These are 100% SaaS solutions. This gets back to the notion that answer the questions that citizens have. We've created a whole portfolio of applications that do just this. So there's and they can be implemented 100% within the ArcGIS Online SaaS environment. So My Government Services is one where it's just a real quick and easy, enter my address, understand my government services. It's totally configurable. So like if you were a health department and you just wanted to focus on public health services and resources that were available, you can configure that solution to do so. Or it can be broad for the whole entire government and organization. Additional links, we have all the user conference tech sessions are available. You can log in and watch those. There were some questions that showed up in the question dialogue around what templates are available for Hub. Through Hub, basic versus Hub Premium. You can go to the Hub website. It outlines all of those things. We'll address that question in a minute, though, on this call. Then there's also a Survey 123 blog on GeoNet that you can take advantage of. So lots of resources. This isn't even all of them. There's quite a few resources for you. Before we sort of sign off, let's go through a couple questions. So Shelby, are you live and available? I got a couple that I want you to take, if that's okay.
Sure, you bet.
All right, so a couple easy ones, and this becomes a question that's very common and frequent. There was the basic question of, is everything you've shown during this webinar, are those capabilities available today, or are they futures? They're all available. We didn't show anything that's not currently available through the ArcGIS platform today, so it's all available to you. A second question was around, this is sort of an aggregate of a number of questions, so I took them. So Shelby, this would be one that I would launch over to you, which is, there were some questions about best practices tips and tricks. What have been pitfalls of some organizations rolling out civic engagement application? There's a lot of ways that we can go with that question, and it might warrant an individual communication. But Shelby, if you were going to give out some best practice, ideas, is there anything that comes to mind off the top of your head?
Yeah, sure, you bet. I'd say first and foremost is to use ArcGIS Online as the platform for putting out your public-facing apps, especially if there'll be high demand for the resource, and that's sort of as opposed to ArcGIS Enterprise. ArcGIS Online scales to meet the demand of the application so that you don't need to worry about that on the back end. And then secondly, I'd say remember to protect your data. For example, you don't want to make any editable data public unless of course the application is designed for crowdsourcing or for a public survey. And the best practice around protecting your data is to use hosted feature layer views, which enable you to create layers, which are views of the same data that have different editing capabilities and sharing levels, so that both editors and viewers can interact with the same data set in different ways.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Shelby. And I know we're getting toward the end here. I hope I can keep people for a few more minutes. There was another question about again, it's an aggregation of a number of questions, but the basic gist is, when do I need Hub Premium? And Shelby, you can chime in on this one too, but Hub Premium is going to come into play when you want to take advantage of the community aspect of Hub, leveraging identity to make sure that you can share data with constituents in a targeted way. So you can actually use the identity to be able to identify volunteers, individual citizens, NGOs, external organizations, and be able to use that identity to sort of streamline and manage who sharing content and information with those people. Hub Premium also comes with a variety of Hub initiatives, so templates like the opioid, homelessness, Vision Zero. Those are all part of Hub Premium. We've seen a lot of use of Hub Premium over the course of the last 6 months, just because that community aspect of these solutions is so important and so impactful to organizations. So if you haven't investigated Hub Premium, please take some time to do so. I wrote down a couple of additional ones here, but I think they're pretty much redundant. So with the interest of time, we'll close. I want to close with this idea just to share with you that we have a really large team of GIS professionals that are here to support you guys. They're really dedicated to the work that they do. They love engaging with you, the user. We cannot wait till we're able to travel and get back out there again. I know all of you feel the same way, but it's a group of really dedicated folks that I'm proud to be part of, and we hope like heck that we're delivering the solutions and capabilities and support that you guys need to do what you do. And so that leads me to the last thing that I would say, which is thank you for everything that you've done to support your communities and to support Esri. It is so appreciated, and if I had a countdown clock to say when I could get back out in the field and return to some sort of human-to-human interaction, I would have the countdown clock. But we're eager to support you, and hopefully we're set up appropriately to do it in the current virtual environment. But we're excited to see you next time. And speaking of that, we have our next State and Local Connect presentation on December 21st. So this will launch you into a spectacular holiday season. So the topic is how ArcGIS continues to transform field operations, and Mike Dyer will be leading that one, and it's really good content. So I hope that you can attend. And then I don't have a slide for it, but in January we are going to tackle data analytics and spatial analytics very specifically, which I think is an awesome topic to discuss. And so that one's coming up as well. So be prepared for December and January. We're also in the process of filling out the next 6 months of webinars, and we'll be releasing the schedule very soon so you can start to plan your time. I really appreciate your attendance, and I hope you have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.